Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, Jeremy Corbyn may not have won the election, but by confounding almost everyone's expectations, he is unassailable as Labour leader for the foreseeable future. So what does that mean for his MPs, most of whom just a year ago were trying to get rid of him? Labour's new chairman and key Corbyn ally, Ian Lavery, said last week that the party may be too broad a church. He also seemed to endorse the idea of deselecting Labour MPs critical of the leadership by saying, if you get deselected, there must be a reason. But he's since rode back from these comments in another interview. Chris Williamson, the newly appointed Labour frontbencher, said that some of his colleagues in the parliamentary party think they have a God-given right to rule. He also said that if MPs don't support the leadership's programme, then local constituency parties should find someone else who will. And in Luciana Berger's seat of Liverpool Wavertree this week, left-wing supporters of Jeremy Corbyn won several positions on the local party's committee. One of the new committee members said that she must get on board quite quickly now and also publicly apologise for not supporting Mr Corbyn in the past. Some Labour MPs rushed to Luciana Berger's defence. Jess Phillips tweeted, "Obey or else is shameful." Elsewhere, the local Momentum group in South Tyneside published a list of 49 Labour MPs and said these usual suspects should join the Liberals. The list included prominent former frontbenchers like Chris Leslie, Chuka Umunna and Heidi Alexander. A spokesperson for Momentum said that the list did not reflect national policy. And this is what the Shadow Education Secretary and Jeremy Corbyn ally Angela Rayner had to say earlier.
Anyone that talks of deselecting any of my colleagues, quite frankly, they need to think about actually who are the real enemy here, who are making the problems for our communities at the moment, who have made those disastrous policies that are hurting the people that need us the most, and it doesn't help them if we're fighting each other.
And we're joined now from Sheffield by the former Labour Minister Caroline Flint. Welcome to the programme. Now, Caroline Flint, Labour frontbencher Chris Williamson has said where Labour MPs don't support the leadership's programme, it's incumbent on local members to, quote, find someone else who will. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's very sad that talk of deselection is a direction that some people in our party seek to take us. I don't think it helps Jeremy. I don't think it helps the Labour Party. We've just had an election just a few weeks ago where 262 Labour MPs, very different Labour MPs, the Labour Party is a broad church, have all won a mandate from their electorate. And our job is, as Angela Rayner said this morning, is to focus on a government that is in disarray and how we can learn from that general election to broaden our appeal, but also develop our policies ready in time for the next election, whenever that's called. So I think all talk of deselection is misplaced and doesn't help Labour.
It might be misplaced, but do you fear that a purge of what is often referred to as the moderates in your party is now inevitable?
No, I don't, because I think, you know, we've been here before in the 80s where talk of deselection was suggested then. It didn't happen in the way people thought it would. And I do believe, actually, just hearing how Ian Lavery, who I've worked with Ian Lavery in the 2010-2015 Tory government on energy policy, and I worked actually with Chris Williamson. He was part of my team when I led on local government. Ian has already, I think, refined what he said, and what he said very clearly was actually this deselection talk, and the way to go ahead on it is not the right way forward. We need to focus on, I've always said this, Andrew, we need to focus on looking outwards to understand that we have across the party hard-working Labour MPs with maybe different views across the Labour political spectrum, and I'd have to say that Luciana is one of the hardest working Labour MPs in Parliament. Her work with me and my energy team and her work on mental health was outstanding and is still outstanding.
Well, but that may be true, but let's look at Luciana Berger's constituency party on Merseyside. The Corbyn left has taken over. One of the new committee members on her constituency committee says that she now has to, quote, get on board quite quickly and even publicly apologise for past disloyalty. Well, the direction of travel is clear, isn't it?
Well, that's one person on the General Management Committee in one constituency.
Well, there's a majority for that point of view now.
I don't think there is a majority for that point of view across the Labour movement.
No,
and
I'm talking in her constituency. They took 9 seats.
But in terms of her constituency is wider than those on the GC. It is all the members in that constituency. And what I would say, and I don't know this individual, look at the track record of Luciana and her work that she's done. The honesty in all this, and straight talking politics, Andrew, is that, you know, Jeremy, you know, in the 20 years I've been an MP under both Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, voted against the Labour whip on numerous occasions. He's been very upfront and honest about this. Do you know what? In those 20 years, I never heard anybody say about Jeremy, or anybody else for that matter who didn't vote with the Labour whip, that they should face deselection or that they should apologise. And I think, you know, that represents the broad church of the Labour Party, and we should look at what brings us together rather more than sometimes we have differences on policy point of views. And I have to say, I think that's something that we should be looking outwards and dealing with and working on much more strongly. Of course,
I mean, and you've said that 3 times, but it's not happening. And it may be that the people around Mr Corbyn, they think moderates like you, your day is over. You lost the 2015 election badly. You allowed Mr Corbyn to stand as leader. You failed to stop him twice. You thought he'd make a Horlicks of the June election. He didn't. I mean, can you blame his supporters for wanting a clear-out of people who took these positions?
I think there are some people who supported and still support Jeremy who feel that way, but I actually don't believe they represent all those people who've supported Jeremy. And I don't actually believe that Jeremy thinks this is in the best interest of the party. Only a few weeks ago, John McDonnell on Peston, on ITV, praised my work on tax transparency. Since the election, I've bumped into Jeremy and we've had a little chat about what's happened in the election. And Jeremy recognises that whilst we were very pleased in gaining seats, and let's be honest about it, we were up against an arrogant Tory party who took for granted the last general election. He has also said to me that he does understand this, and he said this to the broader parliamentary Labour Party.
What has Mr Corbyn said about...
If I could just finish this,
what has he said about deselection? What has he said to try and discourage deselection? Point me to one word in which he said to discourage this.
For example, he said to me that he recognised that we had won in numerous places in quite outstanding circumstances, but he's also said to me that he recognises that we need to broaden our reach and understand why we were losing working class voters. Now that says to me that that is a leader who is up for and open to looking at the reasons why we were successful, but the reasons why we weren't, and he wasn't shutting down conversation on that front. So I'll take him at his word on that, because that's
Except that he's not said that publicly.
No, but what we need from a leader is to challenge our party about where we need to go next. And he has said that. Diane Abbott said at a conference I was at a few weeks ago that we needed now, post the general election, to look at our manifesto, to look more clearly at issues around our tax and spend policies, because obviously clearly now we have more time to look at those issues, and also we may be facing a very different election when that time comes. Now that's what I want from the leadership team. Talk about how we improve our message, how we improve our reach, and by doing that, get away from what some, a minority I have to say, are saying about deselection.
Well, Corbynistas like Paul Mason, former journalist, he thinks that Labour moderates like you were to blame for the defeat. He says people like you cost Labour victory because you were always attacking Mr Corbyn. That's quite a popular Corbyn view in the Corbyn wing of the Labour Party, isn't it? It may be a point.
Look, I'm sure it's a view about some, and I think that's Paul Mason's view. I think he is fundamentally wrong. When we look at the results of the last general election, what we can see is actually a continuum from 2015, where Labour is losing support amongst older voters and more working class voters. And what we see is in this election in 2017, Labour has, I think we're at our highest point amongst, if you like, the ABC's middle class voters compared to where we were in 1979. But the Tories are highest amongst working class voters since 1979 as well. Now, those working class voters weren't voting for a more, if you like, left alternative to Labour. Sadly, they were voting Tory, and we have to address that because our party is this broad church, and representing working class people is at the heart of what the Labour Party is all about.
All right.
And that's the discussion we need to have. That is the depth of discussion we need to get into to put us within a fighting chance of taking on a Tory party that is completely at disarray, and arrogance got in the way of them winning this election. We cannot allow that to happen for us next time.
Caroline Flint, thank you very much for joining us. Let's turn to Labour, because earlier we talked to Caroline Flint, the Labour MP, about the threat to deselect what are called moderate Labour MPs. Here's what Shadow Minister and Corbyn ally Chris Williamson told ITV earlier this week.
MPs need to reflect the political programme that is overwhelmingly supported by Labour members and Labour supporters. And if people aren't prepared to do that, then it will be up to members in their local constituencies to find someone else who will.
How big a change is Labour now going to undergo? To what extent will Labour now be recast in the mould of Mr. Corbyn and his wing of the party?
Well, in policy terms, it already has been largely recast into the Corbyn-McDonnell view, although with lots of examples of them being pretty expedient. Trident being an example, where they went into the election backing retention, even though personally they're totally committed to unilateral nuclear disarmament.
And they might now be able to move to that position.
Well, they might, but that example of expediency leads me to make this prediction. Maybe I'll be wrong. I suspect Corbyn and McDonnell will be sitting there thinking, we are close to power. Do we really want 18 months of civil war, which is what deselection battles would become?
And bad publicity.
And terrible publicity, and an implosion in a party on the verge, possibly, of an election win. And my guess is that they won't, and they will go out of their way to try and stop it. John McDonnell has said many times divided parties lose elections, and I don't think they will want this. Now, there are always power battles in parties. We've just been talking about it in the Tory party. And there will be moments of heightened tension between the Labour MPs and their memberships, but I don't think that this is going to happen.
If Steve is right, we should be looking for signs of Mr. Corbyn and Mr. McDonnell trying to hose things down.
Yeah,
I don't see them.
That. No, we're not
yet,
hearing from
anyway.
the Grim Reaper there as well. I mean, although I agree with you, I don't think they need to do this. The moderate wing of the party, the Blairite, Brownouts, whatever you want to call them, they're not standing up to Jeremy Corbyn anymore. They're just trying to get a few select committee chairmanships, keep their powder dry and just survive and hope something happens. Yeah, I mean, the extraordinary thing is, though, again, it's given that no one expected Jeremy Corbyn, no one tried to deselect him, and no one insisted that he apologised for his disloyalty for those 400 plus votes against the whip when he wasn't Labour leader. I find it extraordinary. We are in Soviet-style show trial, repentant territory. This is
we haven't had a show trial yet.
Matter of time.
That's absolutely right, apart from Brexit. So the Labour Party are united until it comes to voting in the House of Commons on what to do about Europe.
Well, I'm happy to keep
the
Jeremy
49. So if Brexit goes well, that 49 will wither away a bit and start getting part of the measure. If Brexit goes badly, the Vince Cables of this world jump up and saying, we need a new referendum, we need to stop all this. Huge temptation then amongst Labour MPs and the entire movement to recalibrate and argue for maybe staying and having a second remnant, and that will split the party right down the middle.
Yeah. But Steve, the significance of Brexit in this is, and you heard Owen Paterson say it earlier in the show, that 85% of people voted for parties that wanted Brexit, meaning Labour and Conservative. And it's true that Mr. Corbyn and Mr. McDonnell are actually more Eurosceptic than people realise. However, they also want another election quite quickly because they don't know how this may be as good as it gets. They just don't know. None of us know. So get an election quick because we think we might win it. That means that they could well play games. Why would they just bolster the Tories if a big defeat on Brexit could well provoke another election?
Again, I'm guessing, but I think they will play games. And if there's a chance of undermining this government perhaps fatally to get this early election, which would be massively in their interest. They're ahead in the polls.
Yes.
I think they will do it. And they have displayed expediency on Europe in the past, possibly arguing for it whilst having doubts about it in the referendum, for Remain, sorry. So, yeah, I think there will be, as I said earlier, I think in this Parliament there are going to be moments where it looks as if the government could be defeated. And I think they will move towards defeating the government.
Any Remainer who is worried
Europe.
about the economic effects of Brexit should be rather more worried about the economic effects of a Corbyn-led hard left government.
Well, on that,
Be careful what you wish for.
on that controversial point, we better leave it there.
I've been getting away